Hey, I'm Storyman Mark Cater, and it's time for Senior Moves, the art of aging gracefully. Today we're going to start working with balance again. We're going to do a sequence on the floor that in the next session we'll do standing and balancing. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to practice your alignment on the floor first, which is a common way that you can work on your alignment. Of course, when you come to standing, your relationship to gravity is different, so there is a different feel in the body. But at least you get the basics. So I'll be cutting between two cameras here, hopefully to give you a really good idea of what it is I want you to understand, all right? So first, just lie down on the floor. Remember, on the floor, you might have to have a pillow under your head. And we're gonna just bring the knees into your chest to start with here. And as you're doing this, you want to feel how you're sitting into your hip joints. Now, you may be up here somewhere. That's fine. You want to look at having your core engaged and trying to keep your back to the floor. In fact, you may find that you need to have a towel or something here under your hips to keep your back down, especially if you have a bad back. All right, and then just place the feet on the floor and stretch your legs out. So let's connect to your core here. So I want you to float the right foot off the floor about an inch, trying not to let your ribs splay out, right, and just let it float up and down. So you're just looking for a sense of where is the connection in your hip, and then do the other side. So let's connect to your core here. So I want you to float the right foot off the floor about an inch, trying not to let your ribs splay out, right, and just let it float up and down. So you're just looking for a sense of where is the connection in your hip, and then do the other side. Just up and down a little bit, right, looking for that connection. And good. All right, let's just walk the feet in. Flat on the floor. You have a natural curve in your back here. And again, if you have issues with back pain, make sure you limit the range of motion because you don't want to feel any pain. However, this little bit of sequence right here can help alleviate back pain sometimes. All right, arms are just by your side. You want to relax your shoulders. You want to focus on your breath. And look for a sense of balance, right and left hips. And like we do standing, you can move your hips a little side to side. Again, just to kind of shake it out a little bit and start to gain control of that simple action. And then think about the lower back on the floor. Press the back into the floor, hollowed out in your core. And you can even pick one foot up and down, and then the other foot can come up and down. Just do that a couple of times. So you're moving from your hip joint, not your ribs, not your pelvis, but your hip joint. So that's what you want to differentiate from what you're doing. And then go ahead and do the pelvic rock. We do this standing, right? So you've already experienced that, and we did this earlier, I think, and good. And then take your hips around in a circle. Play with your imaginary hula hoop. You want to just take the time. You don't have to go fast here, right? But take the time. Just kind of ooze it around and just notice how things shift around that oval, circular movement pattern. And then just switch and go around the other way. And then come to that center spot with your arms by your side now. Let's do a little bridging. So feel your feet flat on the floor. The feet aren't out wide, right? They're in. If you can line your heels with your sits bone, that's great. And you want to keep your feet parallel so you're not all splayed out. And we're just going to lift the pelvis up and down off the floor a little bit. Arms are extended. You can push down with your hands. You can lift the pelvis up. Now, you may not lift very high. If you feel pain at any point, stop before you get to the pain. But you're trying to connect your heels to your sits bones. So you want to keep the toes down, and you want to get a sense of lift on the inhale, on the exhale down. And just allow yourself to experience that moving upward and downward along the spine. So when we roll down and up the spine in the standing position, you're going through this length through your spine. Last one, and rest. Good. Let's go ahead, take a moment, and just stretch your legs back out. Let your legs relax. All right, so now with the legs rested, your legs will probably turn out to the side. Let's bring the soles of the feet together. When you bring the soles of the feet together, you're not letting your back overarch. You want to keep the back down, so you're moving from a place of being anchored in your pelvis. You can rock this a little side to side. So you're just getting a nice sense of movement here and just trying to figure out what is the placement of those heads of the femurs and that lower back and the sacrum on each side of the midline of your spine. And good. Go ahead, stretch your legs back out. All right, so we're going to do a simple three-part. We're just going to do 3 parts of this sequence today. The first part is simply bring the knee into your chest. So we've stood before and I've had you bring your knee in. And if you can, you want to take your left hand to your knee, right hand on your shin or ankle. So it's opposite hand to knee, same hand on shin or ankle. Now again, if you're way out here, you may just hold your hamstring. And you're sitting down in your hip. Flex both feet and the extended left leg, toe and knee is toward the ceiling, which is the way you would have it if you were standing, right? And that's what we're doing here. We're practicing what we might do standing. Long neck, chin towards your chest, so you're not letting your chin jot up. Again, if you find this happens all the time, put something under your head to help you feel the length through the neck and your jaw. Now we're just going to contract in our core here. If you want, you can lift your head, look towards your foot, and just float that foot off an inch off the floor. That's all, just a little bit. And then set it down. Now, so when you balance on one foot, this could be one way to do it. You may be here. But the idea is you have that sense of length. And now let's switch and just take the other side. So draw the other knee in. Pelvis is in place. The right leg is extended through. Opposite hand to knee, same hand on shin or ankle. Flex both feet, hollowed in your core. Breathe. And you always want to take a couple breaths and try to settle into just placement of the bones and what's going on at the head of the femur here. Right? You're not letting the leg fall off to the side. You're trying to just bring it right up in toward your shoulder and a little bit toward that armpit. When you do lunges, of course, you might take a nice deep lunge like this if this foot was on the floor. Same hand on shin or ankle. Flex both feet, hollowed in your core. Breathe. And you always want to take a couple breaths and try to settle into just placement of the bones and what's going on at the head of the femur here, right? You're not letting the leg fall off to the side. You're trying to just bring it right up in toward your shoulder and a little bit toward that armpit. When you do lunges, of course, you might take a nice deep lunge like this if this foot was on the floor. And then float that right heel. You may have the upper body come up. On the other side, we did the head first and then the leg. You can do both at the same time. Again, variation. Always exploring variation. And then release. And go ahead and stretch your leg out, and you might feel you want to shake them out. Now let's bring the other knee in. Same hand to knee now. Let's start in that center position. You can take your left arm wide to the side. And then we're going to open the right leg to the side. Now here's where people often do more than they need to, because we're looking for placement for balancing. So you're not trying to put your foot on the floor. That's a great stretch, but that's not what I'm looking for today, right? There's ways to have your foot here, have it down here, have it on top, right? All of that's very good, but what we're looking for is how you have your body placed when you're balancing. So the knee can be in the chest. You may have your hand here. And so remember, on the previous session, I had you open and close your hip with a standing position. So let's just open and close the hip in a lying down position, right? And again, you're not rolling over on your side here, but you're trying to take the leg. Where is that point? Like when I get to here, that's it for me. If I try to go any further, this hip wants to come off the floor, and you want to keep this hip down. Right? That's the stability. Here is where you're going to find your balance and length. Right? And then the other thing is, which people often do, is they'll drop their foot here. Right? And you don't want to drop your foot. So if you flex your foot, and this foot is, you'll hear me refer to it as on the walk position. So you're flexed. And then we can explore a little bit here. If you want, you can float the foot off the floor. If you want, you can edge your upper body, and you really feel that core kick in. And then release and come down. And let's go ahead, bring the knee back into your chest, and then stretch it out. And let's go to the other side. Again, same hand to knee. Opposite arm reaches wide to the side, palm facing the ceiling. And let's just open and close the door. So as you open and close the hip joint here on the left side, the right hip doesn't move, it stays down. So you're trying not to force it. Again, you can let it flop if you want. That's what that feels like. But what we're doing is looking to be placed here. Flex your foot. Imagine standing on your right foot. And then once again, if you want, the right arm can be wide, you can scoop and hollow, you can lift your head, and even the arm if you want, and lift that right foot off the floor and engage your core. You want to feel hollowing here. And then release. Bring the knee back into your chest, and then stretch it out. And then release. Bring the knee back into your chest, and then stretch it out. And then the last one, the third variation today, is simply we're going to bring it across the body. Now, if you bring your right knee in, but the left hand is on the knee. Now, when you're standing, the leg, right? The leg and both legs stay in place, and you end up reaching the upper body, bringing the shoulder across and reaching the upper body. But here on the floor, we do it from the bottom up to the head. When you stand, you're doing it from the head. You take the twist up through here, right? So the right arm is wide to the side, and now when you take it off to the side here, you lift the hip up and across the body, and there's two ways to do this bottom leg. You can let it go right with your hip and help support. Now, if you look at my leg here, I'm not letting it collapse, but for our purposes today, you want to keep the leg more parallel here. Again, the same way you would have it when you're balancing. Now, you may not be able to go very far. Your arm may float off the floor behind you, and then release, come all the way back down. And you can just see, you come in one piece here, and that left foot will adjust. And for this side now, just stretch your leg up. And then you may have to bend it, but let it come down. And then we'll take the other side. And so you draw the other foot in. Again, opposite hand to knee. I usually take my hand across the top of the leg. You may find that you can't even have it here, so you can have your hand here or way up on your thigh. Again, the arm's out wide, and it's not straight out wide, but a little above the shoulder here. And what you're doing actually is connecting your right foot along the spine through your shoulder and out to your left hand. And then once again here, we're going to start to arch the back, so you're lifting and you're rolling over on the right hip, and the upper body can adjust, and just take it where you can. Don't force it. Fullness of breath. And pressing the back into the floor again. The whole pelvis comes back into place. And you can let the legs stretch up and let it come down and shake it out. All right, so those are the three positions for today. Now you can practice those And then in the next video I do, we're going to take it from the floor. We'll review the floor real quick, and then we'll come up to standing and we'll do the balance work, right? So thank you very much. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, you find benefit from it, please give me a little like, maybe subscribe, and tell all your friends and neighbors. So thank you very much for watching Senior Moves, the Art of Aging Gracefully. I'm your host, Mark Cater, and have a wonderful day. Ta-ta.